and welcome back to episode 4 of the Looking Glass podcast. I am your host, Pepsi Main, aka Calvin, and I'm here with Cinemage, formerly known as Spicioli, but we all know him as Lenny.
Hello.
And I'm here with also a skeletal friend, Skeletor, aka Jai.
Hello there.
So, before we start the podcast, what would you guys recommend to the viewers? Like recent films or games that you've played as of recent. Like, what are some of the certain mediums that you guys wanted to recommend to the fans out here listening?
Uh, I've been getting really back into like a bunch of Agatha Christie adaptations.
Oh yeah, like
Um, like, uh, well, there's like the ABC Murders is a new, fairly new miniseries. There's, of course, Murder on the Orient Express is one of the more recent ones. There's um, Death on the Nile from the 70s. There's the David Suchet show. It's really good fun. Like the mystery genre is something that isn't done well enough these days, and Agatha Christie is the queen of mystery. It's just the way that she structures her plots and characters and everything. It translates really well to the screen.
Oh, yeah.
It's just peak mystery. Love it.
peak. Aren't they making a new film a new adaptation
just-
for The Death of the Nile?
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's the death. So it's like a sequel to the Kenneth Branagh's Murder on the Orient Express, which I actually enjoyed. A lot of people didn't like it as much, and it is very like Hollywood.
Yeah.
And like blockbuster. But I thought it was really good. It had
Oh,
a really
yeah.
interesting tone and visual style. It was really interesting.
Oh yeah.
Not to mention the cast was amazing.
Yeah, I understand. I might give it a shot before watching the Death in the Nile. I mean, I have watched the trailer for that, and it kind of caught my attention, specifically the casting, for Gal Gadot, and
An
surprised.
important part of those sorts of movies, there's ensemble whodunits, is the casting.
Yeah.
Like Knives Out.
Oh, did he do that film?
No, that was our favorite Star Wars director.
Ah.
The one who did The Last Jedi, Ryan Johnson.
Oh,
Knives Out.
okay.
I
Ryan Johnson.
recommend Knives Out wholeheartedly, despite his big fuck up with Star Wars.
Yeah.
Ryan Johnson.
Because
Star Wars. I don't even know what you talked about.
well played. I respect that.
Yeah.
But no, it seems like he actually learned from his mistakes, and how to deal with a lot of like subverting expectations, and he actually did it well in Knives Out. So
Yeah, he did.
I
Knives Out was
definitely,
great.
definitely recommend it.
Jai, what about you? Any mediums that you could recommend?
Oh, I literally just finished Ghosts of Tsushima, which was an amazing game. Had an absolute ball of a time with that. It was outstanding. Loved every moment of it. Other than that, because I think I might have already talked about it a little bit on one of the older podcasts. I started replaying the Sam and Max games.
Oh yeah, the Telltale. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, the older Telltale style point and click adventure games. Yeah, no, had a big place in my heart from what's it called, my childhood and that, and what's the word for it? Just going back through and replaying them and on PC with actually some better stuff to make them actually render a bit better and move faster than some of the older versions that I was stuck dealing with. It's really good. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Which actually kind of segues into some of the topics we're talking about today.
Ah yes. Would you like to introduce to one of the topics, Jai?
Yeah, well, I think we were talking about our favorite video games and movies and stuff that like really impacted us.
Oh yeah. So I'm assuming, well, obviously from the way you said that, I'm assuming Sam and Max inspired you, or at least is your personal favorite in terms of all time.
Possibly in terms of point and click adventure games, yeah, I would say that, but not my favorite game series of all time, I reckon. I struggle to have like a favorite of all time. I find it too difficult considering how different each game and genre is. But it's definitely up there as probably one of my all-time favorite point and click adventure games.
Okay. How about you, Lenny? Like, what is your favorite film or favorite game of all time that is personal to you, and as to why?
Well, if we're talking about favorite games, there's a couple of franchises that really do hold a very special place in my heart. And hold a lot of nostalgia is Assassin's Creed, the Batman Arkham games, and the Hitman games. and Halo. I should also mention Halo. Definitely Halo as well. Those like 4 franchises they've almost never let me down, and they've just been such enjoyable romps. That it's a cold rainy night, sick with the flu, and I can just chuck it on and chill out without a care in the world, like I'm a kid again. Those games are the only games that can really do that for me.
Yeah, just mindless fun, pretty much. And
Not
specifically
even
Halo.
mindless, but it's just so nostalgic
Oh yeah.
and like blissful, I guess, to just kind of to put myself back in those worlds and just re-experience it again and again and again.
Yeah, kind of like replaying if you've ever played like the older Mario or Sonic games,
Oh yeah. The
Yeah, just that, like
Some-
on
some of
say the
them
old
I agree.
Sega system. I remember I played one of the original Sonic games back when I think it was when they first introduced having Tails, and that was one of the first games I ever played at my grandparents' place.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Like the
It,
original.
it has that kind of vibe, like revisiting something from like ages ago. That's still enjoyable, but you get it from a different context and perspective.
Yeah, I get your point. Did you play it like in the original or like through an emulation, like via what those mini machines?
No, the actual console, like the actual original one. My grandparents and that had it.
Oh, okay. That's pretty cool actually. It's kind of neat
I
that
had
you
Sonic
actually owned the
original
original
Sonic
one.
2 as well, funnily enough.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, in terms of personal like mediums of all time, if we're speaking, in terms of games, I'm kind of similar to you in a sense, Jai. Like, it is too much to the point where like I can't specifically choose one. But if we're gonna have,
Yeah.
if I were to choose like on the top of my head at the moment, I would have to say World at War, but specifically the zombies because it's like similar to Lenny, it's nostalgic. It's basically just, but I find it nostalgic for the reason that it's mindless fun, and 2, it's a co-op shooter, and 3, I didn't really own a PC at the time, and back then Left 4 Dead was a popping thing. So the closest
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
I ever had was hey, pack a punch, get ray gun, set up traps, jug.
Yeah, but that's like still some of the best gameplay of all time. I'd still agree to in terms of like a co-op shooter format where it's like a survival-based one where you go round by round. It works in a lot of regards. It is a lot of fun. Like I still play a lot of the older Call of Duty Zombies games to this day. Like I'll jump back on World at War or Black Ops 1 or 2. But actually, Black Ops 3 was the one I probably played the most, I reckon.
Oh yeah, what was it wasn't with the original cast. It had the new cast. It was in the
No, there was also the original cast was still there. But that was Black Ops 4, I think you're thinking of, where they added in a new whole cast.
Yeah,
Black Ops
that's the-
3 had a bunch of like remastered maps as well.
Yes, they did. Yeah, they had that too, which was actually really fun.
Oh yeah.
They did it really well.
Yeah. In terms of maps, like what would be your favorite map in the zombie series for Call of Duty?
Oh shit, that's a bit of a tough one. I definitely still have Nacht der Untoten, because that was my first one I ever played.
Yeah.
Next to that would be Kino. I really liked Kino, even though it used to annoy the ever-loving shit out of me. It's still one of my favorite maps. But then also probably Der Rise, stuff like that. And then I'm trying to remember. There's a few on Black Ops 3, like what's the word for it? The Giant, which is really simplistic, but like how do you say it? It's kind of just fun for running around, or if you want to go camp up on the walkway or all that sort of stuff. It's just especially good for getting some newer players like kind of used to it, which I've done with my siblings who are not the best at Call of Duty in general.
Yeah.
But what's the word for it? Yeah, that'd be some of my favorites. What about you? Or were you guys?
Well, one of my favorites. Well, they're mostly mostly DLC, but it's Alcatraz. If you remember that, it was from Black Ops 2. And
Oh yeah, that was great.
that one, Alcatraz, and Moon. Moon, even to this day, I felt so infatuated by it. Like, you can literally go to the moon base, and like you can even go to like the rocket launch site. You can even destroy that shit. I was like, what the fuck? Like at the time, as a kid, when I found out you can literally destroy like the site, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, with the Easter egg. Yeah, that's what me and my friend Jason did a little while back. We went through and did every single Easter egg that was available on Black Ops 3.
Yeah,
A lot of work, but a lot of really good fun.
It
And
is.
Moon has some of the best ones, I reckon.
it is.
Although, I should definitely say, to a certain degree, I get really pissed off with Moon because for some stupid reason, every time I go through that goddamn garden area, I forget about all the fucking launch pads and I end up rocketing myself into the sky and then falling to my death.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Those shits was the the one that pissed everyone off from memory. What about you, Lenny? What's your favorite zombie map from COD?
I'd probably just have to agree with Alcatraz. I didn't play a hell of a lot of it as a kid. Only like when I'd go over to a friend's house or something.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Alcatraz in games has always been. I mean, Alcatraz in general, but Alcatraz in games has always been something that's been really intriguing to me. Like, was it Tony Hawk's?
Was it Underground or one of them? One of them
sure,
had.
it was-
I know what you're talking about. One of them.
Yeah, it
had
was an
that, like,
Alcatraz map.
Alcatraz type thing, yeah.
And it was like my favorite map in that game.
Mhm.
It's just it's so fun to just explore that area. It's just there's something about it. Even in like Watch Dogs 2, where you can just go to Alcatraz, it's just there's something about it. It's just so interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it holds like a huge historical influence, not just in real life, but basically in the entire in any medium really, books, games.
Oh yeah, movies in particular as well. If you factor in all of like the older ones, like I think, if I remember correctly, there's like at least been 3 that are like really big. Like, was it The Great Escape? I'm trying to remember. If
That's,
oh no, what? It was the one with
no, that-
Clint Eastwood. Can't
yeah, I
remember
think
the
it's
name
just
of it,
called
yeah.
Escape from Alcatraz or something.
That's it.
like
Yeah, Escape from Alcatraz or whatever. Yeah. No, I'm getting mixed up with Sorry, I'm getting mixed up with the World War II story or whatever.
Yeah, the Great Escape was the
Yeah.
the World War II one.
Yeah.
Yeah, the POW camp. That's right. I'm getting mixed up with another movie. Ugh.
Yeah.
Nah,
And
it's-
then you have, I think, The Rock. If correct me if I'm wrong with this title, The Rock with Sean Connery.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah,
And then was it
definitely
Shawshank
one with
Redemption?
Sean
Was
Connery.
also Alcatraz, or where was
No,
Shawshank
that was
Redemption?
set in Shawshank.
That's a
Oh,
different.
Yeah, just Stephen King's fictional prison.
That's right. Oh, I completely forgot.
Yeah, but you could
Yeah,
you could
it was
sense
like
some
a
elements
creature
of it.
fiction. It made a return in I don't know if you guys have seen. It's a somewhat recent show called Castle Rock.
Yes, yeah.
And it basically takes like
series.
a whole bunch of Stephen King lore and stuff, and it sets it in the town where Shawshank is. And it's like so like Shawshank makes like a big return, but in a very different way, or a much more like Stephen King way that more people would expect with Stephen King, I guess.
Oh yeah, yeah. His odd writing style, pretty much. Well,
He's like his horror writing style. He's rather than like because Shawshank isn't exactly a horror. In ways, I guess you could say it is.
it's a novella.
It's definitely doesn't read like a Stephen King movie.
Yeah.
Not his traditional work.
Yeah,
That's horror.
exactly.
Yeah.
Mm. Oh yeah. Well, Stephen King, like his writing style is completely unique. He goes from horror to coming of age to even thriller and even like a novella, as The Shawshank Redemption. It has some slight horror scenes within it, but it comes like to horror, and then
It's like human horror.
yeah, but he's got a huge infatuation with horror. But there's only like the only time he ever experiments outside the boundaries of horror is if it's I forgot what Stand By Me was one of his works.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's like one of the more coming of age type stories that wasn't exactly horror focused.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm
That
not sure.
horrified me as a kid.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
if
there
it's
were
works.
definitely some scenes that did.
Yeah,
Yeah, just the whole dead body thing. Was it like on the train tracks or in the
Yeah.
river or something?
yeah.
No,
Yeah, that
was
horrified me
bad.
as a kid.
Well, I mean, funny enough, one of the things that scared me as a kid was actually the fucking back in when they jump into the what's it called, the junk yeah, the junkyard. Yeah, that was it. It was a junkyard, and there's like the guy's dog, the owner who like sicks it on him, and it used to petrify me as a kid because it used to be so tense. And not only that, but when I was younger, I did get chased by a very large dog in
Ugh.
the street. So I just kind of got like not like flashbacks or anything, but just like a real reminder of like, oh, I hated being in that position,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think he also
Oh,
did
yeah.
the Dark Tower series, if I'm
Yes.
not mistaken. That's not horror. That's like how to put this? It's like
Good to see.
well, yeah, it's a mixture of all his work combined together, and it's like, hey, let's make a Star Wars-esque, or not Star Wars-esque, and I put it like a Tolkien-esque spin to it, like let's put it that shit like Lord of the Rings. I think like that's what he was attempting at that like when he read that. That's if you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I felt. That's what I felt reading it so far.
Well, Stephen King is really interesting because he doesn't necessarily stick to his like assigned genre all the time. He usually does, but I like that he can kind of break from that if there's a story that he wants to tell outside of the genre, which is something that it's like if you look at certain filmmakers, for example, to make it in more of a contemporary light, I guess, because not a hell of a lot of people read books anymore, sadly. But like some filmmakers, you can look at their careers and you can sort of see that they really are in one genre. Like they're all just horror films.
Kind of like a Ridley Scott or something, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, or even even like your Alfred Hitchcock, who's pretty much only done like thrillers and stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, he's had much more things that went on the side of horror, but no, yeah, it's definitely
like horror thriller stuff.
He didn't move out of that a ton, if I remember correctly.
It's always really refreshing to see like a James Wan who can go from horror to Aquaman.
Yeah.
And just have the utility, because it's not something that you get to see a lot, which is unfortunate.
It's good to be
These people are really talented, and they they're not just talented in one field.
Yeah.
Well, it's similar to like being typecast, you know?
Fun to watch. Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Same thing happens with actors who have like really big ranges, but they just don't get to show it off because they get typecast. Same kind of deal.
Yeah, well, that's what originally happened to, I think, was it Bruce Willis, who was like originally before Die Hard was only seen as doing comedies and all that.
Yeah, like the rom-coms.
And people couldn't see him. People could not see him in an action movie role, and were like, no way, absolutely not. Then Die Hard comes out, and yeah, everyone's like, oh, holy shit. But now, badly enough, I think he's kind of typecasted as a fucking action movie hero, you know?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think the same thing happened with Bryan Cranston, because everyone only saw him as the dad from Malcolm in the Middle.
Yeah, Malcolm in the Middle.
But I think that was his biggest role, wasn't it? Like, I don't know if he had a ton outside of that from memory. Before Breaking Bad, obviously, and then Breaking Bad came out and everyone was just blown away by his performance.
Yeah. I mean, some actors will all like, they tend to be. Sometimes it's a mixture of both. Either they're comfortable where they're in, or sometimes they're pigeonholed into that one genre. I think that you could see that with Adam Sandler, specifically Adam Sandler, because if you see him, most of his people see him mostly as a shit is in the fucking shit. Adam Sandler-esque. I don't even know his name of a production company, but like that specific production company, whatever.
Was it Happy Gilmore Productions or whatever, or something to Happy something Productions?
Happy Madison, I think. I'm not
Happy
sure.
Madison,
Yeah. Happy Madison Productions. Whatever is on that, he's gonna be on it. Like whatever they make, he's gonna be on it. And I think he owns it, but like he specifically.
Well, I mean,
only in those films.
with Adam Sandler, it was kind of his own doing a lot of that, because I think he put a bunch of the stuff he was in, and everything.
Yeah.
So,
I don't think he deserves as much
out
flack
of
as
it, it's like,
I don't think he deserves as much flack as people give him. Like, truth be told, like, and it kind of stems back to another topic that we talked about, where it's like a movie doesn't have to be objectively good to still be enjoyable to watch or whatnot, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I still can
for
go
those
back and look
for those who
and
are
watch a lot of these
confused right now, you haven't missed an episode. You haven't missed an episode, but Calvin over here cucked us and accidentally deleted it.
Yeah, shouts out to the DVD drive, whatever the fuck, hard drive, HDD, SSD, also known as the editing software as well. Sony Vegas, shouts out to you. Don't sponsor.
But yes, either way. So that kind of really links into a lot of the points we were talking about, where he doesn't deserve as much of the shit he gets. It's just kind of like and it's similar to like what's the music group I'm thinking? Nickelback, where they're not that fucking bad. Come on, people need to actually take a chill pill and stop just listening to like what everyone else is fucking saying and repeating.
It becomes part of the zeitgeist of the times to just hate on shit that everyone else hates. It turns to almost like a societal acceptance thing. Of like, if you want to be with the cool, to simplify it, if you want to be with the cool kids, you gotta hate this stuff too.
Yeah, exactly. Well, like,
really
It's
toxic
stupid
culture,
because
I
if you
think.
look at no, you're exactly right. It is a really toxic culture, and if you look at like one of his more recent performances in Uncut Gems, he can be really good when given like actually a really good like set of like material and writing and all that other stuff, which is probably a bit hard to say because I know that he is involved heavily with a lot of the stuff he performs in, but it's kind
Yeah,
of
a
like
lot of it's
similar in a way to
improv.
like Nicolas Cage, you know, like where
Yeah,
he'll
a lot of
also
a
work
bunch
with a
of
lot of the stuff he
comedies,
produces.
a bunch of comedy actors have been notably coming out of comedy recently. Like kind of Jim Carrey. Um, there's some more that I'm forgetting, but uh, it's always surprising people when they do a serious role and like, oh my god, they can act serious, and you know.
Yeah.
But it's just the same thing over and over again. These people have range. They're professional actors. They're you know,
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
they're good at comedy. Maybe that's what they're best at.
Hmm.
But they can still do these other things. And I'm sure they can do
Yeah.
them well in most cases.
Yeah. A good one is
It's just yeah, it's really it's funny to see that um,
Hmm.
so often
mm,
and just so repeated. People don't quite seem to grasp that
Hmm.
that this isn't supposed to be surprising.
yeah. I think a good one
No,
is
it's just
the
really weird.
I think a good one would be Steve Carell, if you guys know him as Michael Scott.
That's the one.
Yeah.
That's the one I was
Ah,
thinking. Yeah.
yes, yeah.
If you watch Foxcatcher, he's completely different. He is completely different. Like
Hmm.
he's like you'd expect whenever you hear Steve Carell, you think of him as either screaming out freeze ray
Rue.
in some fucking Russian voice, or
Hmm.
be Michael Scott and pull up and say it's Britney, bitch.
Yeah.
No, it's like when you watch Foxcatcher, I swear to God, he is creepy, and that's a good thing. Like it's like even though I'm not meant to be surprised, it surprises me regardless. Like still, it's like holy shit, you know?
Yeah, no, of course. There's like a lot of actors who are really like stuck with that. It's something really hard to pull away from, and it kind of really ends up damaging them in the long run.
It does.
Well, I mean, they're aware of that, obviously. Like I think it was Daniel Craig in particular who was really worried about getting typecast. So I don't think he's playing Bond anymore from memory.
Yeah.
You know,
he-
I'm not sure that it's been delayed, of course.
Yeah.
Which we'll get back to that. Put a footnote in that.
Mm.
But the new Bond film, it hasn't been confirmed, but I do suspect that it may be his last. Because I mean, he had to take a break, I think, during the production, because he just didn't want to do it anymore. Which of course is probably linked to a bunch of
Yeah.
production issues and
Yeah.
stuff like
Mm.
that.
Yeah, of course.
But I'm sure that it probably does have something to do with he just wants to try something different. At some point, like you just you don't want to like Hugh Jack Wolverine. Like I'm sure he loves the character, but he's
Oh, that's a
like,
that's a
he's
really
branching out and
that's a
he wants to
really
do other
big
stuff
problem,
with
sir.
it.
Like Hugh Jackman in general, if you know about like how with Wolverine, I think I really feel bad for the next guy who has to take the reins for that because I think he's going to have a lot to deal with because I think nearly everybody looks at Hugh Jackman and just as like Wolverine, you know, like
Yeah.
how else can
Yeah,
you say it?
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
he's perfect.
Yeah.
So I think the guy's really going to struggle, but I know Hugh Jackman also stopped doing it because from memory, it's like taking a massive physical toll on his body, like to have to just go through so much effort and just, if you look at the processes he has to go through to get to like that body for Wolverine, it's like,
I mean, he's like that body like all the time anyway, because he's like.
but
a
not
workout
to the
champion.
not to the same degree though. If you
Yeah.
know, yeah, it's like it's
I mean,
extra bad.
Actors, really have to put in the extra work
Mm.
almost all the time to get that extra bulk.
But yeah, I think
Yeah.
one of the worst cases of typecasting that might immediately jump to my memory is Sean Bean as being someone who dies all the time. And I think from then on, I think we're going to transition off of that because I think we've talked
Yeah,
on and
go
on
come
about
back
this
to
for a while.
um,
Yeah.
the footnote, which is stuff
Mm.
that's been delayed. So we were talking about James Bond and how that's seemingly been delayed. And of course, everything going on right now in the world,
Yeah.
stuff like Tenet,
COVID-19.
Christopher Nolan's new film,
Mm.
has been continually pushed back, and it is finally coming out now. Not that we're going to be able to see it.
Yep.
Shout out
Some
to
people
Melbourne.
in some places are going to be able to see it, but
Hopefully they'll put it on
here in
digital.
Victoria, here in Victoria, we're not going to be having as much luck just yet.
Yeah.
Nope.
But outside of that, delays are still a very constant thing.
Oh, yeah.
In movies and in games. I think we'll
Mhm.
probably start with movies because we're already on that topic. So like, I can't remember what the last one was before that, but they've especially like franchise movies as well, like big blockbuster franchise that you wouldn't expect to get a big delay. They really they get stuck sometimes. Even like if you look at Pirates of the Caribbean, for example, and how that's kind of
Oh,
stuck
yeah.
in development hell
Yeah.
for the past.
No,
knows how
particularly
long.
after the whole fiasco that happened with Johnny Depp, whether or not he was playing Jack Sparrow and going to be able to come back to the films or whatever, which would have just probably like, I'm not even sure how badly that would have affected things because
Well,
that would have
that
completely rechanged shooting and even maybe costume, all sorts of stuff.
Well, they were gonna get Zac Efron, weren't they, to get him to play Jack Sparrow?
Ugh, no,
Rumor, at least, I
No.
think I heard. Which, no, absolutely not.
not that I don't love Zac Efron, but not as
Can't,
much
yeah,
as
can't.
but not as
can't.
not. You can't. It's the same thing with like you were saying with Wolverine. It's like
Yeah.
when someone's so ingrained as that character or as that.
I hate to use a
portrayal.
term from Ubisoft, but it's rather iconic. They become very iconic.
Yeah, journalist words,
Yeah,
journalist
it's
keywords.
true. It's very, especially in something like Pirates of the Caribbean, where like you could look at like a just Jack Sparrow's costume, for example, like a mannequin, and you can instantly, that's Jack Sparrow. And then put Johnny Depp in
exactly.
it, bam, Jack Sparrow, perfect. It's like when you build up these like iconic characters, on like all different levels, but then you try and kind of change it a bit, it's definitely going to upset a lot of people.
Oh, it doesn't even just happen with like, what's the word for it? Like, actual real life actors. It happens with voice actors too. Like, where if someone's voice is changed, it can completely change the perception and understanding that people have, or they're just immediately like, I hate this. This is wrong. This doesn't sound right. You know?
Exactly what happened
Yeah.
with Arkham Origins after, because Kevin
Yeah.
Conroy, of course, the greatest voice of Batman, voiced Batman in the animated series and all the Arkham games
Yeah,
except
yeah.
for Origins. And I loved the voice that they got for Origins. I forget his name. I did know it, but I forget it. And they wanted, I guess, a younger voice. Maybe they couldn't get
Yeah.
get the
No,
original
no.
cast. 'Cause
God,
Mark
I know
Hamill-
exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. Ugh.
But those like problems aside, people really freaked out about that it wasn't Kevin Conroy and Mark
Yeah.
Hamill. Oh well, I guess at that point they didn't know the Joker was going to be in it, but
Yeah, exactly.
but it's such an arbitrary thing. Like I get, I'm the biggest Batman fan. I've got a
Mm.
Batman tattoo. Too much Batman memorabilia, and
Mm.
like literally today in the mail, an 18 film 80th anniversary Batman Blu-ray collection just arrived. So I'm I'd suffice
Lee
it to say
has
I'm
a
really
bit of an
big fucking
obsession with
Batman fan.
Batman. Yeah.
Absolutely, that's fair. That's fair to say.
Oh,
Also in my
Lord.
shed there's a proper Batman costume, but I get that out on special occasions, maybe for
Mhm.
Christmas. But
Or whenever he feels like
No,
role playing a bit in the bedroom. But yeah.
exactly, which I would know.
I'm the Joker, baby.
But but no, but I'm the biggest fan of Batman. Yet it still pissed me off to see how much hate the new voice actor was getting back then.
Yeah.
And even like today, recently with Fandom releasing the trailer for Gotham
With
Knights.
Robert Pattinson and all that, yeah?
Not even
I
Robert Pattinson got shit.
know. Oh, sorry,
hate,
no,
but
sorry,
he's
you said
starting to
Gotham
come around.
Knights, sorry.
But
No,
the
no,
game,
yeah.
Gotham Knights, people have been giving that so much shit because it's not what they expected and yada yada yada. They're fanboying
Yeah.
and yada yada. But it's so unfair to the creators and to to everything they're trying to do.
Yeah.
For example, with Gotham Knights, it's simply just that they're trying to do something new and different. And sure, I'm a bit iffy on like the RPG elements, so want to wait and see how that is coming along.
Yeah, of
But
course.
I have faith that it's going to be really good and enjoyable, and the WB Montreal is actually a really good development studio.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I had a similar problem, but except I'm not a fan of what happened with Dead Rising 4 with what they did with the voice actor and Frank West in general. How they really
I think-
de-aged the character.
I think
and they did in a
overall-
bad way.
I think overall, yeah, it was a lot to do with the writing
Yeah.
with Frank West.
It was a lot to do
that
with the
was-
writing. And
That was, I mean, it was probably coming down from like corporate.
it was corporate as well.
um,
It had influence from that because I think they were given
Yeah.
exactly 1 year to do it because they wanted to make it release at the same time as the. I'm not sure what type of like what what digit anniversary was, but like at least the anniversary of the Dead Rising series. So they were like, hey, you've got 1 year to do this. Like, can you make a Dead Rising game ASAP? And
I mean, time constraints are always a big thing, definitely, but it's always the disaster stories are always stemming from, well, at least what I've seen, they're always stemming from, like the the execs on high kind of saying you've got to do it this way, or the high.
Oh yeah, especially when they want to add in like newer things that like an exact scene from another game. Like I know it was
yeah, exactly, yeah.
What
Exactly,
I
like-
can't remember what studio it was, but they had the one of their executives look at the Shadow of Mordor Nemesis system or whatever. I think it actually might have been Assassin's Creed or something like that, or one of those big, like a
Assassin's
very
Creed
big.
has a similar system with its
Yeah.
Odyssey has like mercenaries that are kind of similar to the Shadow of Mordor system. But even
But I
like,
know one of them. Sorry, just to quickly add in though, because one of them like had that added on top of them, and it completely fucked the schedule for what they were programming and doing. Because it's a massive interruption for something that they're not familiar with in the slightest. You know,
It is.
it's always just elbowing in this new stuff. But no, even Hitman Absolution, which is a good game. I really enjoy it. A lot of people give it shit. I don't think it's a great Hitman title, but I think
but it's not a bad game.
But
okay.
the thing about the game is, for the time, it's that sort of like linear stealth game that's that's not social stealth, it's not Hitman stealth.
Yeah, of course.
It was being pressed on IO so much that they
Yeah.
had to change a bunch of that stuff. And
Mm.
apparently, even when they first started showing off the game, people were livid because of it was like even more linear than it is now.
Yeah.
So they added in some like some sections of more classic Hitman
Mm.
to sort of appease people.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
That's like a case where it's very clearly the execs and the big guys going, look at I don't know, Gears of War or Splinter
Gear.
Cell or
Or GTA or something like that, you know.
and just these other games saying they're successful, they must be successful because they're doing A and B and yada yada yada. So you have to do A and B, otherwise you're not going to be successful. Despite the
Yeah,
fact
like
that that's never been done in the franchise, for example, and it doesn't.
Well,
mesh
like
with
battle royales, you know. Like take for example how fucking
Exactly,
I think it was
exactly.
EA were like, hey Battlefield, so
Battlefield,
Call of Duty are doing Call of Duty are doing a battle royale. Well, we're doing a battle royale. Fucking, and I think because I still play Battlefield 5 bits and pieces too, like today, and no one plays it. It's actually dead because no one touches the Battlefield 5 battle royale, even if it was good. No one touches it with a 10-foot pole, and battle royales
fair
in
enough,
general are
'cause there's
so
so many of
overdone.
Yeah, and most of them are free.
Yeah,
as well.
exactly. Yeah,
People
like
don't wanna-
yeah.
They don't want to pay, the entry price of Battlefield 5 if
No,
they're
of course.
not even interested in most of Battlefield 5. They just want to play the
Battle Royale,
Battle
or
Royale
whatever it
mode.
is. Which in most cases I don't think people did because Battlefield is rather or at least in my opinion, it's a very kind of specific type of FPS where not every single FPS player is super appealed to it, and it's only really got it has a wide market or whatever, like it's got a wide marketability or whatever you want to put it, but someone going from Call of Duty or whatever to Battlefield are usually discouraged in a certain regard, not by like the community or anything like that, but like by how much more difficult the gameplay is in a lot of regards, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's something.
definitely slightly more. It takes a different mindset, I guess, to play some
Yeah.
of them.
Well, you can't just kind of charge in and pray to God that you get 30 kills in most cases.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Like
if you
because
compare it to
if you
Call
run
of
around a
Duty-
corner and there's a tank, you know.
Yeah, like if you compare it to Call of Duty, where it's very tight corridors
Yeah.
and the way the maps are designed are pushing people into each other, so there's always
Yeah.
counters, and you always kill them in like 2 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of an arcade shooter compared to an actual full-on 64-player shooter where it's 32v32.
Yeah, it's like big open battlefields and vehicles and stuff like that. Even like you could compare it to like Halo's bigger modes, with like it's just crazy, like everything's everywhere and stuff. But Battlefield, I guess, takes it in a in a more grounded direction most of the time.
Yeah, of course. Like, there's actually, like, I remember back when we used to play Battlefield 3, I was actually a part of a group that were trying to do, like, realistic military simulations in Battlefield. We weren't, like, super serious and whatnot, just, like, actually trying to play it and be more tactical, I guess is the best way to put it. And in a game like Call of Duty, you really can't do that.
You can't,
know
because
what I
like,
mean?
Yeah, Call of Duty is all
Yeah.
about running around and shooting if
like
you
who's
see
gonna
someone.
whip out a nuke? Like after 30 people dead, dead, you can just whip out a nuke and just like, hey,
Yeah.
you know, game over, America wins. You know.
But I mean, Battlefield has a similar system in some ways. Like, I know in Conquest in Battlefield 5, you can drop like a, I guess you could call it like a, what's the word for it? Like a bombing run, where you
Oh,
just
yeah.
fucking blast the shit out of an entire area, which is like the equivalent of a nuke, but it doesn't do the entire map.
Yeah.
You know?
That
So-
would be crazy.
Oh, it's fucking, what's the word for it? It's, I guarantee you they might end up doing something like that though, with like if Battlefield branches into more, what's the word for it? Oh, actually, no, come to think of it, now that it's running through my head, Battlefield 5, which is World War II, like, they haven't got anything like that, so I guess they probably wouldn't in any of the other games, I guess.
I mean, if
Nothing
Battlefield
comes to
would've-
mind.
Even if they sort of implemented something, maybe like the next Battlefront game,
Yeah.
I don't know, like an orbital laser or something.
I mean, they would.
Or,
Ion
if you
cannon or
played the
something.
opening-
Yeah.
if you played like the opening of the first KOTOR game, that's the Old Republic. Yeah, there's a bit where there's like a cruiser and it just rains fire on the planet and just decimates a city. Maybe something
Yeah,
like that.
exactly. Or
I don't
maybe
know
even like a
if that's
fucking
actually
Death
right.
Star laser beam. Just the
Yeah.
fucking actual death ray. Yeah.
Obliterate the entire planet. I don't know. It could be interesting if they implemented something like that, but it
It
could also
would,
go
but-
very wrong.
I mean, it would.
Well, yeah,
but
of
then
course.
people would need to have like a higher kill count in order to attain it, because compared.
Yeah, but if you compare it to like Call of Duty, though, just to quickly explain it, though, Calvin, there is issues with it that do pop up. Because,
There
like,
is.
especially when you get like, I know there was a thing where hackers that got onto console. Jesus Christ.
they still
It was the most
exist.
frustrating thing where back in like MW2 or even MW2 nowadays, because it's filled with hackers,
Yeah.
what would happen is that you get someone come in, turn on full auto aim or whatever, and it didn't happen all the time, but they'd get him, fucking get the kill streak or whatever, because they'd be invincible, so you couldn't kill them anyway, and then just immediately end the match after you'd spent, like, depending on how shitty your internet was, fucking ages just trying to get into the damn thing in the first place. So it can be good, it can be bad. I kind of prefer it the way Battlefield's does it,
Yeah.
like as it already exists,
Because it
so
doesn't
it's
affect the
not
whole thing.
as crazy.
It doesn't.
Yeah, it
affect
doesn't
the
just
whole thing.
immediately end the match and make it so that you win, you know?
Yeah.
Hackers on console have always been really shitty.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like on PC, it's like they're bad enough, but when it's on console, you know that they've gone through so many extra steps just to fuck with people on console.
Take the piss, really.
Like,
Oh, yeah, and you
I
have
remember
even
in,
less
like,
results.
Origins multiplayer, which I loved. I really hope that they bring something similar back with the new game. But there was always like the hackers playing as like Batman and Robin who are just flying around,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
T-posing and finding like weird corners of the map to just camp in and then like insta killing everyone with like a hack. It's just
Yeah.
it's so infuriating and it really it ruins the fun for everyone.
Yeah, of course.
And I don't see how maybe like after a couple of minutes of like fucking get wrecked scrubs, I'm hacking you. I don't see where the wide appeal is with to hack.
I think it
these,
is
like,
just fucking with
online-
people. That's the main
Like,
way. It's just
That's what
fucking
I'm
with
saying.
people.
Like, how does that appeal? Like after like 5 minutes, can't see how that would.
Yeah, well,
maintain
I mean, but that's
the
because we're
fun.
logical, you know, and we don't get a lot of fun from
Yeah,
treating people like
Get
shit.
wrecked, hackers. You're not logical. No brain hackers.
Well, I mean, script kiddies in general are most of them that are on console or any of that sort of shit.
Yeah.
Which is just like, basically, they bought a fucking already hacked Xbox off of eBay or some shit for Christmas because they begged their mum or some crap, and
It's
then
about-
got it and then loaded it. Yeah.
Extra loops just to fuck with people.
I mean, it's more of a
Well,
flex.
I
for them.
mean,
It's like a.
it depends though, because it. Sorry, go, Carl.
Sorry. Well, like it's more of a flex for them, because think about it. They're like, oh, I got hacks and you don't. When in fact, you know, two things are for sure. They bought it off some fucking, grey market or some sus
Yeah.
area, or two, it's an actual old cunt who's literally just taking the piss and just is that like saying, oh,
Mm.
I can hack the game, I've got the skills, which I can respect that, but most of the time it's just little kids who want to flex on other people saying, I hacked.
Well, I
the
mean,
game."
but it depends because there's also like there's a lot of cases of like good hackers in games. Like I remember back in GTA 5, you'd get guys who online. You had a lot of bad ones, don't get me wrong, but you had a lot of people who were like, "Oh, wow, can't believe that Rockstar made it so that like microtransactions are needed to like basically actually win and play this shit."
Yeah.
So they'd be like, "Hey, everyone in the lobby, here's like a bajillion dollars," you know, and oh god. Those were kind of the days back then. We didn't have to fucking go through all the bullshit and melodrama of either actually having to pay real world money just to be able to get any of the cool new shit Rockstar released, or having to just spam farm certain heists or other crap like that, you know?
It's
Which
definitely
just-
become an epidemic with online games.
Yeah, and microtransactions specifically have really fucking impacted a lot of this shit.
It has, and it forever, and unfortunately, will. I think this was the generation to which I think the previous generation was a slow. Well, the near end of the previous generation was a slow introduction towards microtransactions with the battle passes and all that shit. And I think this was the generation to which everyone said, "Hey, hey kid, do you like this Fortnite skin? Do you like to dance? Do you like to do the Snoop Dogg shit? You're gonna have to pay."
Yeah, but that's
this."
even
And
happening
it's
with
always
Fall Guys.
predatory to kids as well.
Yeah, it's gonna.
Yeah,
I'm-
especially. Yeah.
I feel like next generation it'll go worse. It'll definitely go worse. I mean, if you see the Avengers game, oh my days, the Avengers game by Square Enix. Apparently,
That's a
they've
risky pre-order.
the pre-orders, and not only that, you have to pay. Like it's microtransactions as well. It is.
Well, because that's like what do they call, like a games as a service kind of deal, where it's
not
like
really. It's not
you
really
pay
long
you
term.
pay the base price, and you get the
Mm.
base game, which isn't wholly a lot because they're planning on
It's
updating.
bullshit.
whatever.
It's so bullshit.
It's Ubisoft.
Yeah, and it's
syndrome.
like if you remember back in like the Xbox 360 days, where they were kind of starting to trial this sort of shit, where they to play on. I remember like even like Call of Duty and shit like that, and Battlefield. To play online, you'd have to. So if you bought the game new, it'd come with a code, and you put that code in to get the online
yeah.
parts.
Yeah.
If not, if you bought it pre-owned,
Yeah,
you have to pay
Ubisoft
for
did
the
that
price.
specifically.
Yeah.
Ubisoft were like the worst.
yeah,
with
Ubisoft
that.
and EA were the absolute worst for that.
Mhm.
And it's like it seems to have all kind of. There was probably a bit before that in terms of DLC, especially, but
Well, it dwindled
That's-
out
that's,
because
I think,
people
where-
realized how bullshit it was and that it's completely unfair. Like,
and,
Well, it
and
is
hopefully,
unfair.
like that's like what I'm getting to is like hopefully that's something that we're gonna see more of because we are starting to see people are really not taking the shit lying down anymore, and like even like to the
well, the
stage where
Australian
government
government's actually,
regulation.
they've actually
Exactly.
gone in place for this because they've labeled what's the word for it, loot boxes and all that other sort of shit as
Gambling.
gambling, yeah, and that it has to be explicitly stated on the box, at least in Australia.
Which is it's a step in the right direction, definitely.
Yeah, it is.
And hopefully we can see an upwards trend of that sort of thing not being tolerated anymore.
Yeah, of
And
course.
hope-
No, especially
hopefully-
like pre-order bonuses too. Like,
Yeah, exactly, and like console exclusive bonuses, like with Arkham Knight. I keep going back to the Arkham games, but I love
well,
them.
not even just that, but like
But
Avengers,
Arkham
where they were
Knight, which
like,
had
you want to
like
play as
some
Spider-Man.
exclusive shit, and exactly Avengers. You have to. There was a meme I saw which was kind of funny, but
Mm.
it was Gotham Knights. If you want to play Spider-Man, get it on PS4.
Yeah.
Oh
But,
my
um,
god.
Yeah, it's super shitty practices that
Only
aren't
Epic would know.
consumer friendly,
Yeah.
and they shouldn't be tolerated. Hopefully, going into the next generation, we can start to crack down on this shit and not tolerate it anymore.
Oh no, yeah. Look,
You're
for me,
still
the
gonna
biggest
have
thing.
Your Fortnites with your your blind kids just going and buying Fortnite skins and what have you. But hopefully, as a whole, especially with games, because Fortnite's free to play. At least it's
Yeah.
free to play. But
Yeah,
like
yeah.
with games, you have to pay full price for like $100 Australian, and then on top of
Oh, yeah.
that, all this other predatory shit. It's just it's not on, and it's
Well,
hopefully will stop happening.
one of the biggest things that that I actually think that needs to fuck off and just get completely away and it's to do with like season passes and all that sort of stuff. Like the biggest example I'll have is that I bought a game a little while back called For Honor. Not everyone may know about this game, but I bought it at
No.
launch. It was expensive. It wasn't cheap. Lenny, you can vouch for me on this one. It was like 80,
Yeah.
$100 or whatever AUD.
Jesus.
Bought it.
That's
It
if
was
that's
supposed to
if
come with the
cheap,
season
but-
pass. Well, I bought it with the season pass because I bought the gold edition thing because I was like, all right, I just want the season pass. That'll make it better so I can get all the heroes and shit. I don't have to pay for them separately or whatnot. I later find that they introduced another season pass and a thing called the Marching Fire expansion, which are not covered by the first season pass at all, even though you still paid
That's-
50 something bucks for the season pass.
Yeah, that's a big thing starting to happen, like with Rainbow
Yeah.
Six Siege with their yearly passes.
Yeah, the yearly passes.
It's you know, like I remember the days when you'd buy a season pass and you would get every single downloadable content release
Yeah.
for that game. And it actually confused me at first when that shit started happening, where they started doing multiple different season passes.
Yeah.
I would like buy a season pass, which I don't really do anyway, but you know,
Yeah.
every now and then I'll buy a season pass of a game.
Well, I
and
just
then,
do it because it ends up being cheaper if I want to get all the DLC in the first place. That it's usually cheaper.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But like I'd buy a season pass for a game. I don't remember which game it was, but there was one game in particular where I was super excited to get all the DLC and
Mm.
stuff and play it all. And then like it gave me like half the DLC. And I was
Yeah,
like,
I
"What's
guarantee it
going on?"
would have been an Ubisoft game because mostly
Probably,
Ubisoft
probably.
games have been
It's,
doing
yeah,
it.
it's usually.
Oh!
Usually Ubisoft.
To add insult to injury, I just bought online recently the For Honor complete pack because I've started getting back into it
Yeah.
because I've always enjoyed it. And what's
Ooh,
ended up
For Honor.
happening, yeah, I'm not super pleased about it all, but I do really enjoy the game format or whatever. You know, I like how it functions.
good
and I think it's a
ideas.
really cool idea. So I bought the complete pack, which gave me the Marching Fire expansion, the Season 1 thing, even though I already had the Season 1, but it ended up being cheaper than buying the Marching Fire and the fucking Year 3 pass separately, you know? So I was like, fuck it, you know, and it also gets me the digital game permanently owned or whatever for the same price as it would have cost for like one of the DLCs if I bought it separately, you know what I mean? So I did that. I opened the game. Oh, new hero released. I was like, oh, cool. Yeah, I've probably got that too, haven't I? Because I just bought the complete pack. Nope, got to pay another 11 or 12 fucking AUD.
Mhm.
If it's called the complete pack, and it's supposed to be the complete fucking game,
It's always really misleading as well.
it's so
Even like
fucking
sometimes
frustrating.
when there's a season pass, and they're not even like pre-order items, but like there's a season pass
Yeah.
doesn't give you like those little items like a gun skin or something, and you
Yeah,
still have to pay
exactly,
$1 or
yeah.
so for those extra bits.
That happened to
It's
Dirt
just
Rising 4. I bought the
it's
season
just like,
pass
just-
for that, and I didn't get that
just-
stuff. Yeah.
Just give me all the stuff in the season pass. I don't mind if you chuck a couple extra bucks on
Yeah,
it.
even if it costs extra money, yeah, just don't fucking shaft me with it, you piece of shit, you know?
Yeah,
Ugh.
it's really trash.
No, it's a really shitty business practice, and I think it's really predatory for a lot of kids too, because a lot of kids go, "Oh, I'll get everything, that's great." They buy it, and then it's like, "Oh, cool, a new thing released," not realizing that, oh, it hasn't just given you everything. You know, it's said like, "Oh, we'll give you some of this, and then we'll fucking still get you to shill money out to us for the rest of it," because there's so many games where like. You look at the core content of it and it's not complete unless you have the extra like actual downloadable content, particularly EA games, like especially online EA shooters like Battlefield, which Battlefield never used to be as bad as it's become recently, but like Jesus Christ, where you've got like no fucking maps in a lot of regards without buying the DLC, all this other shit that's just
Yeah,
horrendous.
especially because they favor the maps, the DLC maps on their servers and stuff.
Yeah, they do, and it's
So they railroad people into having to buy a DLC just to get in a game that's populated.
just to be able to play. It's so fucking annoying. But it's just one of those things where I hope the industry is going to start changing because I feel like they've realized people aren't tolerating it anymore, and if this shit happens, people just don't buy it anymore.
And with the backing of like
Yeah.
companies like CD Projekt Red being like super consumer friendly and like
Yeah.
publicly getting a bunch of support from people and
Oh yeah.
and praise and like pre-orders and stuff like that, like
Mhm. Yeah.
they're benefiting from it. They're profiting
Mm.
from not being predatory, and hopefully that's an
Yeah,
example that can be
exactly.
set that you know you don't need to be predatory to still get profits.
Well, of course, that should
But,
be the
you know.
case, especially if they haven't learned from, take for example, EA, what happened with Star Wars Battlefront 2. The game was literally going to go so well. Everyone was super excited for it. They were like, there's no microtransactions, all the DLC stuff will be free. And then what do they go and fucking do?
Loot boxes.
So we're gonna put in some loot boxes where they're actually integral to the game because they change your character's stats and things that they can do and make them better. I know we said we wouldn't do exactly that, but we're gonna do that, and you guys are gonna buy it. And then everyone was like, "Yeah, no, we're not buying the game. You can get fucked. We're boycotting it." And then now the game, even though it ended up being a great game because I still like DICE, and even though they're run by EA.
At the current state it's in, after all the updates and new heroes they released and everything was for free and everything, at the current state it's in, it's amazing. It's a really good
But
game.
limited. There was supposed to be a lot more, but then EA fucking
Exactly. The
sucked
amount
life
we've
out of
got-
them.
The amount we've got now is what we should have launched with, and then they should have built upon
Pretty
that with
much,
some free
yeah.
DLC or whatever.
Mhm.
But but because of how shit the launch was, it took this long to get to a point where it's acceptable as
Yeah, exactly.
what it should have been, Which
Didn't they do
is
the same
really
thing that
frustrating.
Anthem?
Yeah, no, it's a shell of its former self or what have you.
Anthem actually got me really concerned because BioWare, the company that made it, is one of my favorite developers. They make
Yep,
Mass
agreed.
Effect
They make Dragon
Dragon
Age,
Age.
Mass Effect. Yeah.
and I was really worried for a minute there that they were going to get shut down after Anthem.
Well, I
because,
think
you
they
know,
said they were. There was big talks about them getting
was,
shut
yeah,
down.
They're on a
because of how
cusp of
bomb-
being shot.
how much of a
But
bomb-
thankfully, heart attack averted. There's been new teasers of the new Dragon Age game, so
yeah, exactly.
everyone who's a Dragon Age fan or a BioWare fan, you can rest easy.
Well, but yeah,
For
it was
now, at
a
least.
it was a thing that
Yeah,
at
that's on
least
track,
we're good for now, but I don't know. I'm really thinking that we might have a similar scenario with what happened with Lionhead Studios, where it's like, oh, what is that? Fucking game development not going great, or product not necessarily super marketable, or whatever. Bye time. Delete studio, no more. Which was a very big possibility after what happened with Anthem and a couple of BioWare's other games that like really bombed. Like I think was it Andromeda as well. Mass Effect Andromeda didn't do as good as like things were projected to, or even things like Dragon Age 2.
Well, that's the thing is the projections are always so.
They're off. They're off. They're always off.
They're so,
Hello, Square Enix.
Yes,
Or
pretty
not
much. Yeah.
hopeful, but like they have such high expectations for
Over-expected,
what they're
yeah.
gonna be,
Yeah.
and then when they underperform, if they can perform amazingly
Yeah.
and rake in so much cash, but they never reach those margins because
No,
they're just so high, they're just unobtainable.
that's what happened with
Like, I
Tomb
think
Raider, I believe, from memory
back
with
in, like,
Square Enix.
Back when GTA 5 was like coming out, that blew everything out of the water and sold a historic amount of copies.
It did.
That
Yeah.
became the new bars that the companies would set and say you have to
Yeah.
sell as much as GTA 5, which is it's not gonna happen. Like
No,
there were really successful games coming out
Mm.
after that that made a hell of a lot of money and were really successful,
Mhm.
but they weren't considered successful because they weren't as good as GTA 5.
yeah, of course. Like even if they made a profit, they were still like, well, it's not enough of a profit because we're greedy as fuck. Like,
It's like they expect that they could get a bigger profit,
no.
even though it's just not gonna happen.
Well, the thing that I don't understand is no matter what, as long as you're turning an actually decent profit of like, because in most regards, I can understand where they're like, in order to fund more projects and newer games, we need to earn a lot of profit to make better and constantly evolving tech-wise stuff. I can understand that, but at the same time, like the method and way that a lot of these companies are going about it is insane. It's so nonsensical. Like particularly companies like Square Enix, especially like with Final Fantasy and a lot of their other bigger series, they've completely lost it.
They've gone off the track.
Oh yeah, thank God. Yeah, otherwise it was fucking atrocious.
I think another one that went off the track was if you remember, Starbreeze originally back in 2013 they announced that
Oh,
The
no.
Walking Dead,
Yeah, the
yeah.
Walking Dead game.
and then
Yeah.
I think,
Starbreeze, for those people who don't know them, are the people who developed Payday 2 and a few of the other.
and then the projections were so absurd to the point where they thought it was gonna hit like the AAA mark, when in fact it flopped to shit. Like because
Well, it particularly flopped because it didn't fucking work. It was buggy as all shit, even though it had been in development for ages. Like, it was a catastrophe, man. Like, far out. And then you've got a really problematic scenario where, like Starbreeze also had a lot of big issues going on behind the scenes where they actually had, I think it was a big arrest of actual employees because it was, how do I put this, insider trading from memory, which is like big no-go. That was
That was some
something I
shit,
wouldn't
really.
exactly think that something you wouldn't exactly want on your track record as a company, particularly if you're trying to be like on the level of a lot of the other bigger game companies. And which sucks because Payday 2 is one of my favorite games of all time. Like its console version is not that great.
They ditched it.
Even
They ditched it
much of that.
completely.
They haven't ditched it completely because they actually went back to it a little bit recently, but they just don't give it anywhere near the same love and attention that the
As the
PC,
PC,
version
yeah.
does, which is a real shame.
Yeah.
Like, it's a real
I think
shame.
it comes down to that they don't have the resources and that they're pressured into going for the market that is probably more popular with, and more people own Payday 2 on PC. I'd be willing to bet.
Oh, definitely. No, guaranteed.
So-
It's
Yeah, so they'd be kind of forced into taking that road and diverting like all of their like manpower into fixing bugs and shit in the PC version while leaving the console in the dust, which
well,
happens
that's the thing, though. Yeah,
too frequently.
it happens all the time with a lot of games, but particularly like the Payday games, where I think they really do thrive off of the kind of PC community in general because of stuff like modders and the amount of support and customization you can get,
Mhm.
which
Yeah.
is not necessarily, how do I say it? It's not like a great thing that games are relying off of that modders are going to fix all the problems that they've had and all that other sort of
No.
stuff. That's not a good business model to me. Like, but if that's the case and that's how they're going to run it or whatever, it is what it is. But if you're going to still make people pay full price for a game that, as I'm sure Lenny can agree with me here, when trying to play it online with friends has really just been a catastrophe in a lot of regards on the console version, because there's constant bugs that were supposed to have been fixed years ago and all this other series of crap that's just
Bugs should have been
plagued the game.
to be honest.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah,
not
they
only
shouldn't
that.
have been an issue for
Yeah, but it's not only that. It's because I think they split the development team into like multiple groups. I don't even know at this point, because I think back in 2017 they released a game called Raid. Raid Shadow. No.
Yes,
Raid.
no, they had the
Yeah, this
World War-
podcast is
it was-
sponsored by Raid Shadow.
No,
Don't
it's like
say that. We'll end up getting.
Please
like,
give us
fucking
money,
murdered.
Raid. Please.
nah,
We've sponsored
but,
your
like,
game. Give us
but
money.
it was a Raid. It was like a World War II.
No, but it was a
Payday
World War
clone.
II Payday game.
Yeah.
It was and it actually was connected to the Payday universe. It was from memory like some kind of like a predecessor to the Payday crew or some shit like that.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, it was linked, and I remember they actually had. I think one of the biggest problems they had was actually that the game wasn't really advertised properly.
It was not.
There was no
Marketing is,
advertising or
people
attention to it.
really downplay how important marketing is into the success of something. If people don't hear about it, they're not
No
going
one
to buy it.
fucking buying it.
No,
Yeah.
no one's
Yeah.
buying it.
It's
But it
a
was-
big key.
But it was not only
But
marketing. too.
nowadays with E3 and stuff, it's a lot better. A lot of the games, apart from a lot of indie games, of course, but a lot of games are getting their time in the spotlight to really.
Except that E3, I
really
think,
short.
is never happening again or something, isn't it?
It's
So
not.
there was some discussion about that. Yeah, that it's been permanently shut down. It's not happening.
Really? I thought it was suspended.
but like that E3 style, like we've had recently with like
You got PAX and you got like
Games
not
Not
even
coming up.
like Night City Wire for the
Oh
Cyberpunk
yeah, yeah,
stuff, or
Yeah,
the DC Fandom for the DC stuff.
yeah.
Like those events where they can really showcase the games and get them to an audience to actually go out and buy them. But
Yeah.
I think at that point we should probably start wrapping up for this episode.
Yeah, I
Yes,
can agree to
we
that. I think we discussed a lot today, even if we got off topic at the end.
I mean, yeah,
We do.
we did, but it was a good conversation nonetheless. But yeah, again, I'm your host, Pepsi Main, and I'm
Yeah,
here
he's
with-
been your host. Mechanic people having pain in the ass. I'm Skeletor. or
Episode
whatever.
deleting pain. in the
Episode
ass.
deleting
and I'm
pain
here
in the
with
ass.
and I'm also here
His
with
address
Damatuk
is-
Casita,
Really-
Damatuk Casita Alien Lenny Alanese,
Stop.
and
Please.
yeah, see y'all next time, guys.
Bye.
Bye.